Hi all, welcome back to the channel, guys. So today we are doing a mock interview with Divya, who have experience working with Java and Spring Boot, and she is currently based in Mexico, and she also worked at Revature as an intern. And this session will help you guys to give a great idea of what kind of question asked in real interview and how to approach them with a confidence. And if you are also interested in appearing for a mock interview like this, just fill out the form given in the description below, and we will get in touch. So with this, let's start in the video. So hi, Divya,
Hi,
will
hi,
you please
hi.
introduce yourself to our audience and also mention what work you have done as an intern at Revature?
Yeah, sure. Hi, all. I'm Divya Bhardi. I completed my bachelor degree and master degree in India. Now I'm living in Mexico City. After my graduation, I worked in a small IT company where I developed some e-commerce web applications. After that, we came to Mexico. Recently, I completed my 3-month internship program at Revature. I want to grow as a Java developer with developing some real-world software solutions. Also, I'm passionate about continuous learning and I enjoy exploring new technologies. Yeah, that's all from my
Great,
side.
Divya. Great,
Thank you.
Divya. So will you please tell us that what work you have exactly done on your internship? Like what part you have done as a code?
Yeah. In my internship program, we learned about Java, Spring Boot, and AWS concepts. Also, the front-end React. We developed three projects, same project in 3 iterations. The first one is we used the Java Javelin framework and the PostgreSQL, used Postman for testing our application. In the second iteration, we used the Java, Spring Boot, front-end React, and the PostgreSQL. And the third iteration, we deployed our application on AWS.
Okay. Okay. So what Java version you guys are using for your application?
Yeah, core Java 17. Then we have experience on the Java 8 and the Spring Boot frameworks.
Okay. So will you please tell me that what all are the features in Java 8 and what are newly introduced in Java 17?
Sorry.
What all are the features in Java 8 and which are the features which are newly introduced in Java 17?
Yeah, I think the collections, streams,
Okay.
then Java 8 concept of lambda expressions, functional interfaces, method references. Yeah, that's all.
Okay. Okay, Riva. So, like, we'll first start with the basic Java, and then we'll move to Spring Boot. Okay.
Yeah.
So, will you just tell me that what is the difference between the method overloading and method overriding?
Yeah. Yeah, method overloading and method overriding. Method overloading is it has same method name but different arguments, different type of arguments or number of arguments. Method overriding is it have same method name but different arguments. Sorry, same method name, same arguments.
Okay. And why we need two different things, method overloading and method overriding, and where it will help us?
Yeah, method overriding. If we want to reuse the code from the existing method, we can use the method overriding. If we are not satisfied with the superclass method, we can override in our subclass.
Okay. Okay. And is there any keyword we can use so that suppose if I am as a parent class, I don't want my child class to override my implementation. So is there
Yes.
any keyword which we can use so that my child class will not able to override?
Yes, we can use the inheritance concept here, the extends with use of the extends keyword. We can use the extends keyword for extends one class to another class. If we want to implement interface in our class, we use the implement keyword.
That's fine. I am asking like if suppose I don't want my child class to override my method implementation, then
Okay.
is there any way I use?
Yeah, we can declare as a private.
No, actually, if we don't want our child class to override the method, we can define that method with a keyword final. And final
Uh,
keyword will make sure that no one can override.
yeah,
Okay?
final keyword.
Okay. So suppose if I declare a class with a final keyword, then what will happen?
We can't. Sorry, we can't extend. We can't override our class.
Okay. Okay.
We can extend our class. We declare the final method in our class. We cannot extend that class. If we declare final as a method, we cannot override. If we declare a variable as a final, we cannot reallocate that reinitially. It's a
correct,
constant. Constant.
correct, correct, correct. Okay.
Yes.
So do you have the knowledge of strings in Java?
Yes, I have it. Yeah, I have a
Okay.
knowledge.
Okay. So do you know why we call in Java string is immutable? What is the
Yes.
meaning of this word?
Yes, if we once declare a string object, we cannot able to change that. If we want to change, it will declare a new object with the changes. We cannot change the existing object.
Okay.
So a string
And
object is called as a immutable.
correct. Okay. So like which part of memory Java uses to store all of these strings?
Yeah, in Java, heap memory have one part of SCP, the string constant pool, where the strings are stored. If we create our string object with the use of new keyword, the new object will be created in our heap area. If we for all string literals, one object will be created in our SCP area. It means the string constant pool. If we are not using the new keyword, the one copy of string literal will created in SCP area, but not created in our heap area. Only the use of new keyword only object will create in our heap area.
Okay. So do you think like using string in Java is safe because it will always be in your memory? If you make some operation on it, if you will change that string, it will create the new string in that memory. Correct?
Yeah.
So
Yes.
your string will be always there in a string pool. So do you think it's a good way to use?
Uh, yes, because in string constant pool, if we are have object, if we create new object, it will have the same name as the before. It will reuse the object. So I think it is safe.
Okay. Do you also have the knowledge of multi-threading?
Ready. Yes.
Okay. Okay. So will you just tell me like is there how many ways to create a thread in Java?
Yeah, and there is two ways to create our thread. One is the extending thread class. Another one is implementing runnable interface.
Okay. Also, like, why we have two different ways to like make a new thread?
Yes, if we are extending thread class, we are able to extend only one class. No able to add another functionalities. If we are using the runnable interface, we can we can implement multiple interfaces to our classes. So runnable interface is recommended to use.
Okay. So why in Java like we can't extend to classes, but we can implement to interface? Why
Yes,
so?
because Java doesn't support the multiple inheritance. So
Yeah.
we can achieve that implementing multiple interfaces
Uh,
because yes.
yeah,
Um,
I got your point, but why is such a case that Java don't support to extend to classes, but is support to implement to interface?
because a subclass doesn't inherit from two superclasses, it will lead to the naming conflicts. Um, I forget that name.
Not so?
Mm,
Okay, so let me tell you what is this concept. Actually, in Java, basically when we try to extend two classes, suppose if in two class we have two different methods, okay,
yes,
and if two different method have their implementation, now in the subclass, if I want to like call a method of parent, I don't know na, that which one I have to call because both have the same name. So if two class have the same name, then it will create an issue for the compiler to understand that which class method we have to call at the runtime. But in
yes,
interface is possible because in both the interface we only define the method signature and not its
yes,
implementation. So it's up to you, it's up to me like how we want to implement it.
yes,
Okay?
yeah. Thank you.
Okay. So this is how like you have to answer for this.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. With this, let's move to the Spring Boot concept. Some of the questions from Spring Boot. So, have you used that Spring security?
Yes, yeah, we have used Spring Security in our projects.
Okay. Where and how?
Yeah, we at my second iteration, we developed our project Java and Spring Boot. We used the JWT token for for user validations, user authentication and authorizations. JWT token is a JSON web token. It is a self-contained token. It is used for securely transforming information from one application to another application. We can call it as a client to server. It is a stateless token. It contains three parts: the header, payload, and the signature. The header parts contain the type and algorithm of the token. The payload contain the claim about the user's informations, and the signature is encoded over header and payload.
Okay. Okay. So suppose if the user is login, then you are generating a token and giving back to them.
Yes.
And where you store that token?
Our local storage. We can store web tokens in our local storage. Then we can apply to the HTTP request header as a bearer. Then
Okay.
send to the servers.
Okay. Correct.
If
And
it matches, yeah.
Go ahead.
If it matches, the request will execute.
Okay. And in the answer, you told something about that we use JWT for authentication and authorization.
Yes.
Okay. So then, what is the difference between both of these terms?
Yeah, authentication means it's like a login process. The user ID, username, like this. The user is valid user. You will check the valid user or not. But the authorization is the user is able to do that operations or not. That they have the access or not for that operations.
Correct. Okay. So, do you know like beans in Java?
Yes.
What are they?
Bean is like a normal Java object, but in Spring, which component are managed by the Spring container, which is called as a Spring Bean. The Spring creation and the whole life cycle is managed by the Spring container,
Okay.
or we can call it as the IOC, inversion of control.
Okay. And like, do you know what all are the scopes of the bean?
Sorry.
What are the scopes of a bean?
Yeah. The Spring copy is singleton, prototype, and some web. And some web.
Not an issue. Not an issue. Like if we don't define any scope, then by default, which scope they will take?
Singleton. Singleton is a default scope.
Okay. Do you know what this term means? Singleton
Yes.
bean?
Yeah, singleton means only one object will be created, but prototype means whenever we call the bean method, it will create get bean method, it will create a new object. New bean.
Okay.
It's not object, it's a bean.
Okay. Like if we want to implement a singleton class, that we are building our own singleton class.
Okay.
So how we can achieve that?
Yeah, we can declare a private constructor and we can create the private instance. Then we declare a method, getter method for return the instance.
Okay. Okay. So do you know like how dependency injection works in Java?
Yeah. In dependencies are three types in Java. One is a constructor injection, setter injection, and a field injection. When we want to mandatory injection, we can use the constructor injection. If we want any optional dependencies, we can use the setter injection. And the field injection is not recommended because it has some limitations in the testing. So it's not recommended. Yeah.
Correct. Okay. And like in your internship, have you ever built an API in Java?
Yes.
Okay. So suppose if I have to build an API, what
Okay.
all I need, like what will be the method structure to build an API?
You mean classes? Controllers like servers?
Controllers, yeah.
Yeah. We want to create a controller, servers, and a repository. Controller is accessing data from server. Server is interacting to the repository. Then repository is interacting to the database.
Okay. And in the REST APIs, we have several terms known as that if the API is of get, post, put.
Yes.
So how we use them and what is the difference among
Yeah.
them?
We can achieve REST API using the HTTP methods like get, post, put, and delete. If we want to get any information from the server, we use the get mapping method. If we want to post anything to the server, we use the post method. If we want to change any specific content, we use the put mapping method. If we want to delete overall content, we use the delete mapping method.
Okay. Okay. So, like to build a controller in Spring Boot, do we have to annotate it? Like, is there any term we use?
Yes. For controller, we annotated with REST controller. REST controller is the combination of add controller and the response body. It will convert our Java object to the JSON.
Okay. Okay.
It simplifies our REST API creations.
Okay. Suppose like in our Spring Boot app, we need to connect our database. Then how we can do that?
Yeah, we use data JPA, Java Persistent API. It uses the Hibernate tool for relating our Java object to the relational database.
Okay. And
Using
where
Hibernate using the ORM tool, object relational mapping. Object
okay.
relational, yes.
Okay. And where we have to define our source name, source of that DB name, and the password user of our database, where we define all such things.
In repository layer.
Okay. Do you think it's a good practice to define it there? Because your database URL, username, password will depend on which environment you are working on. That either for prod, there will be different password, different source, your URL. For QA, you have another. For dev, you have another. So, is it possible that how you can like change this and how you will test it out?
We can use entity classes.
No. Actually, in Spring Boot, we have something called as application dot properties. In
Yes.
that properties file, we used to define all our means
Yeah,
URL,
you asked
DB
the
password.
data source, username, and password
Yes,
URL.
exactly.
Sorry. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
confusing with it.
So that should be defined in that part.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, understood.
Okay.
I talked. Sorry, I thought about the username, password, the date of birth, like the database fields. That's
Okay,
what
okay. That we used to define in entity only. Correct.
Yes, that's what I thought.
Okay, okay. So, do you know the difference between the annotation, that service component configuration and all?
Yeah, these are the component, controller component repository, and the service are called as a generic it's a stereotype components. It's are used to mark a class as a Spring Manager component. The Spring this component will scan our classes and subclasses for if there is any component managed by Spring that is registered to as a bean. So for the controller layer, we use the annotation REST controller, and for service layer, we use the at service annotation. For repository, we use at repository annotation. That controller is we are using our Spring MVC controller.
Okay, correct. Do you know at the rate Spring Boot application annotation?
Yes.
What it does?
We use the Spring Boot application to declare our Spring application. It is a combination of configuration, enable auto configuration, and another one is
Component scan.
yes, component scan. Yes.
Okay. So
It will
what does this do? Component scan.
A component scan is scan our classes and subclasses. If there is any class annotated with the component, controller, service, or repository, if there is any class annotated with that, it will register as a bean.
Okay. And all this will happen at a compile time or at a runtime?
I think it's runtime, but I'm not sure.
Okay. Okay. So let's move some towards our Java collections.
Yes.
So in the collections, we have something called as Hashmap. Do you
Yes.
know what is Hashmap and why we use it?
Yeah, Hashmap is used to represent our key value pair. If we want to represent a group of objects as a key and value pair, we use the Hashmap. Hashmap is internally working is it using the hashing. it will generate the hash code. Then compared to it will first initially it will generate a list of array 16 index, I think 0 to 15 indexes. If we find the index through the hash code, it will store object to the array. If we want to store the same index with different values, it will converting as a linked list, node of linked list. If you want to store different objects, it will store next nodes. If we reach I think five nodes, it will convert as a balanced tree.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm not reviewing that last time.
Not an issue. You're like almost on the same page. It's correct that Hashmap uses linked list and then it uses balanced tree
Yes.
out there. Yeah. Suppose if we have two objects of the type student. Okay. And both are the same student. Suppose the first one is named Dhivya, age 10. Second one student is also the name Dhivya, age is 10. And I want that this is a duplicate and do not let them enter into our Hashmap.
Yes.
So how we can achieve that?
It will matching using the equals of method. If it has same content, it will not store. If it has the different content, it will store next node. Store to the next node.
Okay. Correct. Okay. So do you know the difference between the Hashmap and the Hasset?
Hasset.
Like Hashmap, now we know what is Hashmap. Just tell us what is Hasset.
Sorry.
Not as that's fine. Okay.
I think Hashmap is synchronized. Hasset is not synchronized.
No. Okay. If you just tell this, will you please help us knowing that what is the difference between the synchronized and non-synchronized?
Yeah, synchronized means at a time only one thread can able to execute that processor, but not synchronized means multiple thread can execute the processor. So the waiting time is in synchronized, the waiting time is increased because the thread need to wait for their turn. But in non-synchronized, the performance will be increased because a thread are not need to be wait because multiple thread can access the processor same time.
Okay, but how will you make sure that that some piece of code only a single thread is using that?
You're using synchronized keyword.
Okay.
We can declare as a class. It is a synchronized class. So synchronized method.
Okay.
Also, we can use if we want to declare any specific lines, we can declare that lines inside the synchronized block.
Okay.